Exposure, according to the CDC, so according to the CDC, exposure to ozone may cause headaches, coughing, dry throat, shortness of breath, a heavy feeling in chest, and fluid in the lungs. I would add to this a like hypertension, ringing in the ears, and just like a mask on your face. Like almost like you were just blasted by something like Ghostbuster style. Yes, we're getting into ozone. Let's talk about this. So we decided to break down ozone, but we decided to focus in on ozone for clothes. So mainly you got people like Ozonics, you got all these other people out there with the ozone that sits over your unit and shoots ozone all around you, and we're not going to discuss the pros and cons of that. There's a place for that, there's a time for that, not here. We wanted to look at the effects of ozone, pros and cons, and like really break this down. And what started off as like simple mission. We just wanted to see if we could destroy clothes with ozone, and so like how much ozone was too much ozone, and we really hoped we could destroy clothes. That didn't happen, but it led us down the wormhole of ozone, and we really went deep into this. And what was supposed to be a simple process went much more complicated, but it's actually been very educational. It's totally made me reevaluate my setup, how I think about ozone, the pros and cons, and it's badass. I'm super excited. I really love how I think about ozonics, or ozone, how I think about ozone, where it plays into my setup, where it doesn't play into my setup, and how I think about ozone. So let's get into this. So let's talk setup. We decided, we went into the warehouse, we carved off a little area and created a little makeshift tent. That makeshift tent tried its best to make it airproof, or at least consolidated. Like, not much can get out of it, but I didn't want to take waterproof materials and totally encapsulate it. I was thinking that this would be much more simpler. It was not. But yes, we built a makeshift closet, and we attached a unit in there, and we hung clothes in there, and we took brand new clothes. And so that's the setup. We walked through that, had clothes laying in there, and that began our process of ozone. We're just going through our unit and walking through this over, but like normal bungee cords, this thing weighs 5 pounds, at most 5 pounds. And this is what we've been using. This is our setup. We hung it because I wanted equal distribution of pushing ozone around. I didn't want it sitting on the ground and hoping that you get some convection in here. And so we set it up high. That way you know everything's getting equal ozone. But normal bungee cords, these things have lost all elasticity out of these things. Let's see. Like they're shoestrings. They've lost. Yeah, man, this is crazy. They've turned into shoestrings somehow. So we did get some damage in the bungee cords. They've gone from that that's crazy. That, from this to that.
Hold them right next to each other.
Yeah. You've literally killed everything that's elastic in this. So we got damage. So this is the ozone machine we used, and this is a corona discharge unit, and it pushes out 10 grams of ozone per hour, and so it's powerful. It's meant for large homes. And we got it on Amazon. We spent a lot of money on it. And I thought it was gonna be a good setup just to like maximize damage to clothes. Like I talked to all our friends, all the guys in here, we were like, how much damage could we do? What's the first to go? And so what we did was, initially on site, we took brand new clothes, straight out of the warehouse, still tags on them, threw them in a closet that we made, and tried to encapsulate it. We took this unit, we hung it up, and we rotate. We checked it every 3 hours, and that allowed us to see if there was any damage. After the first 10 hours, 12 hours of doing this, there was no damage, like nothing. It was very like anticlimactic. I was really bummed. And so that led us down a path of what's going on. Like this doesn't make sense because we have guys, you know, we've taken clothes outside and really ozoned them. And when we develop products, like we'll test them with ozone through normal uses. And I've never had any issues with our gear. We don't recommend you use ozone. But you know, if you use ozone, and I've seen it on clothes, like I can quickly tell how ozone degrades fabrics. I can tell the testing when we get warranty claims. Like you can see when something's been destroyed. I've never had a warranty where someone's like over ozone, but we don't recommend it. Totally not recommending going down the path of like ozoning your clothes in this video, but people are going to still do it. So we're going to explain the pros and cons of it. We set out to do this. 12 hours of ozone, no damage. We began to reassess things like what's going on? Why is this not working? But we knew we were getting ozone. We knew that because we blasted ourselves. And so, yes, this thing is powerful. I've done ozonics, I've done scent lock bags, scent crusher bags. I've done all these things on my entire life. I've used these items and I love the smell of it. I thought like, oh man, this is so cool. I love the smell of ozone in the morning.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
Like you get up and go hunting, like that smell maybe, yeah, it gets exciting. Like, oh, it's killing scent. I'm scent free now. Like that is like synonymous in my mind now. Totally different. I hate the smell of ozone. I have like a negative experience with ozone now. I don't like that smell at all. I had a horrible reaction to this. This thing gave me headaches. It gave me dry eyes. It burned my eyes. I started having to wear this. You think I'm joking? You'll see in the videos and when we walk around, I had a face mask, gloves, air purifiers, all this, because it made a difference. I hated going to that dang closet to see damage because every time my ears would fog up, all of a sudden like my ears would start ringing and I'd like my whole body would succumb to this like fog. Ozone sucks. And when we ran it, ended up doing this whole test for 90 hours. And so I was running this, I'd come into the office, I'd smell it. And I knew like immediately that overcoming sensation. So yes, this sucker's powerful. And yes, we ended up having to modify our test to get what is valuable out of this. Like we were hoping to just be able to tell you that you would get X amount of destruction and say, you know, after 10 hours of ozone with this much ozone, you destroy your clothes. We didn't get that. So what is educational for us? We were like, all right, how can we get the damage? And so that led us down the path of like, why would certain clothes be damaged and not others? And we started thinking through like the process. We started researching what ozone does. What is ozone? And so that led us down a whole different path of what our setup was. So the setup, the scientific setup of really what is ozone. So let's start off with, what is ozone? It is an oxidizer. It is O3. We took a corona discharge unit that pushes out 10 grams an hour of ozone, and we did it for 90 hours. And that led us down some interesting findings. So again, what is ozone? It is O3. It is an oxidizer. It's like rust. It needs to attach to molecules. It will kill bacteria, or it will just stall bacteria. And so like you really, to understand what the pros and cons of this, you have to understand what you're using. What is scent?
Called Sex Panther by Ozone. It's illegal in 9 countries.
Brian, I'm gonna be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline.
They've done studies, you know. 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
And so like originally, like it was just so straightforward. Like, oh, throw some ozone on. You smell the ozone. You think you've eliminated your odors. Boom, I'm good to go. Not the case. Ozone is an oxidizer. It is O3. Certain items, bacteria, it will stall the scent. It can stall the bacteria growth. But the minute you take it out of that unit, you expose it to humidity, you expose it to air volatility. That O3 atom that's sitting on you essentially, incredibly volatile and incredibly wants to turn back into oxygen. And because of that, the half-life on this sucker is like 60 minutes. So like after 60 minutes, this thing's pretty much lost all its energy. And what was ever causing that scent to begin with, that bacteria, sweat, oil, scents, all those are just chemical reactions sitting on your body that's triggering something in your mind to cause scent. That's just what it is. Like you smell a chemical compound that triggers something in your olfactory system, that is scent. And those chemical compounds come in the form of bacteria. You can get perfumes, oils, all that stuff is factored and registered as scent in your mind. So ozone will attach to those things and mess it up. That O3 atom will give it some oxygen because naturally O3 wants to be an O2, so it's giving some oxygen, changing that up, and it's powerful. And so we shot it with a bunch of ozone, but brand new clothes, we were like, you know what, there's no bacteria on these things, they're brand new. And so we decided, all right, let's go down this path and really try to figure this out. And so the setup was, we took brand new clothes, ozone, 90 hours, 10 milligrams per hour, like 10 milligrams of 90 hours. So you got 900 grams of ozone shot on these things. Then we took clothes that we had used, had bacteria, sweat, totally destroyed, and shot it with 90 grams, 900 grams of ozone. So 90 hours, 10 grams of ozone per hour, and examine what the outcome was. Then we took clothes and we just said, all right, sweated them out. Used them for an entire day in 100 degree weather. Just disgusting. They stunk, they smelled horrible. And so we did that and put them in a category. So you have clothes that have no bacteria essentially, straight out of the box, straight out of the bag, ozone them. Have clothes that were used, washed, and then ozone them. And then we took clothes that were never washed and had tons of bacteria. And shockingly, what we ended up finding was, let me get them. So I pulled 3 buckets from them, so you can see, never been used, still hang tag. I've heard people saying that rainwear gets destroyed with ozone, and I was really hoping to like see some seams come untaped. Didn't happen. I'm still feeling the ozone. This stuff is still ozoned out. I'm like, I know I said like, I'm feeling it. I almost want to put my mask back on. Seam taping didn't come undone. But we definitely have spent a ton of time on matching the right glue for this fabric, the right taping for this fabric. We probably put a solid 6 months into the seam taping construction of these garments for waterproofing so they don't come undone. Nothing. The only outcome that I noticed, that we noticed in this garment, was that it became softer. The DWR treatment on the exterior of this fabric was eaten away a little bit, and so it became softer, but that was it. Nothing else. Zippers are fine, seam taping's fine. Even the elastic, I was expected this to go. Now you could make some nitpicky, like maybe the elastic is a little stretched out, but I don't think anyone would ever know. And I'm not gonna sell these. They're larges. I need to lose some weight. They'll become mine. Puffy. This jacket's been washed a bunch, used a bunch. It's my jacket. I shot it with 90 hours of ozone. and the only outcome was it got softer, got incredibly soft, but didn't lose any loft. The taping on the back, I got rubber ports around the safety port harness, rubber, no damage, and seemed fine. As far as I'm concerned, like things that I expected to come apart didn't happen. Just incredibly soft. I would imagine if you kept going, like maybe something, but incredibly soft. Maybe the fabric has some weird wrinkling to it, but that's it. Nothing else happened. The interesting thing, the clothes that were drenched in sweat, never washed, pretty much are non-usable anymore. The fabric pretty much lost its elasticity after all the treatment. It's still a little stretchy, but like when you stretch it, it just doesn't return to the same point. So like the elastic fibers are stretched out, much like so the elastic fibers, once you stretch them out, they're gone. Like it still has stretch, still a 4-way stretch garment, still there, but it's definitely not returning to the same point. When you stretch it, much like these bands, man, you stretch them, they just stay out. The garment didn't. It didn't do the same. And so it's crispy, it's losing its stretch. Some of the binding seams on this, like on the neckline, are a little coming off. The hang tag is a little weirded out, but the main thing was the stretch. Stretch is gone. Well, it's not gone, but it's definitely not the same garment. I would not recommend this. And so what does this all mean? We're not scientists at all. The deduction I could only possibly make, going back to the foundation here, it is an O3 atom. Because of this O3 molecule, it oxidizes things. In the lack thereof presence of ozone or lack thereof of bacteria, there's nothing to oxidize. Yes, you're oxidizing some of the chemical compounds on the exterior, the DWR, the fabrics, it's getting in there, but it's not destroying it because ozone doesn't destroy. It takes a long time to destroy it. But if there's bacteria present, it's an oxidizer, it's got something attached. Once that oxidation begins to happen with bacteria, I think, based on what we've seen, that oxidation process, think of rust, destroys stuff, makes it worse. And so I would highly recommend, if you're going down the path of using ozone, I would not recommend the bags for gear that are meant for just straight ozone. Like people that don't ever want to wash their clothes, want to just go throw their, just use ozone as your cleaning agent, much like a medical industry, like I'm just going to kill all the bacteria with ozone, you're going to destroy your clothes faster. This shirt would probably last a season with heavy abuse with ozone. Don't recommend it. Extend the longevity of your clothes. Don't ozone it. Wash it. Much better process. Now, so if I have access to a washing machine, I would totally recommend washing it. And I would recommend an acid treatment like distilled vinegar or diluted vinegar solution, or some form of an oxidation agent like OxyClean. You can get unscented OxyClean or just use unscented detergent. That will wipe out all the odors and all the bacteria. The acid will kill it and it will preserve the fabrics. Nothing will happen. If anything, it'll make them softer, much like the ozone does, but it's just a better, more effective treatment. I like we were using the analogy like, yes, if I wanted to disarm a bunch of nukes, I could drop a nuke on all those nukes. Yes, I would ignite every nuke in there, in that process, and have a huge explosion. Like everything would be destroyed, everything around it. Or If I wanted to make sure I destroyed every nuke, let's go disarm as many nukes as possible, i.e. wash the clothes, kill all the bacteria as much as you can, use the water, a safer perspective, use the wash to destroy the bacteria, and then carpet bomb with some ozone if you absolutely have to, feel compelled to use some ozone. Wash it with some form of acid treatment, distilled vinegars, wash solutions, something that works. We recommend Granger's. If you don't have access to Granger's distilled white vinegar, we have a whole nother video working on how to wash your gear and stuff. But in the meantime, Granger's and/or distilled white vinegar, and go down that path. Use that effective treatment. Then, if you feel absolutely compelled, like I need to use ozone, like got that tick in your mind, like I gotta use that ozone, then go down, do a simple ozone treatment after that. You should be fine. Don't recommend it. Could cause damage, could cause something. You could have something weird. You could have really low humidity and a really powerful ozone machine. I don't know. Don't recommend it, but if you want to, at that point, you've killed most of the bacteria, most of the oxidation. The ozone won't do much, but it'll give you some assurances that yes, at the end of the day, ozone killed the last bacteria it could. But most of the time, like, it could just be stalling the growth. You think that the ozone's killed it, could be just stalling it, but nonetheless, wash it, then ozone it. But let's talk about the really third part sticky area that I know ozone's heavily used for gear. It is really simple, really easy for backpack hunts. I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely done it myself, where I'm on like a 5-day hunt and I don't have access to a washer machine. I don't have anything, but I just want to have like my clothes like feel somewhat clean. And I want to kill some of the odors. I want to kill some of the bacteria. And I'm in the woods. I don't have anything, but I have battery packs. And so I can charge a battery pack and hook that up to some ozone machine, or have an ozone that's attached with batteries, and run an ozone unit every other day. And that's worked. After going through this process, I'm totally going back to my original Citadel days and how we wash clothes there, which this was like 20 years ago, predates all ozone treatments, or at least is as prevalent, as big as it was. I recommend, if you don't want to use ozone, you want to preserve your clothes, get a laundry bag and use unscented Febreze. Febreze started off as unscented a long time ago. If you read the history of Febreze, started off unscented just as a way to kill odors. And so you can still buy it. Walmart sells it, Target sells it, most grocery stores sell it. You just have to look for it. And so you buy that, buy a laundry bag, and I will hang this in a tree. I will douse all my base layers in this stuff, hang it in a tree and let it air dry with the wind and nature. It will kill the odors. It will still have a crispiness to it. There won't be softness because you're not washing it with any type of acid, just an oxidizing agent in the water. Most of the time it is baking soda or some form of hydrogen peroxide that's diluted, which you can make on your own. If you want to make your own unscented solution, there's ways to do that. Basically baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, and water. Shake it all up, good to go. But anyways, simple solution, unscented Febreze. Febreze your clothes, put them in a laundry bag, hang them in a tree, hang them from a bush, let them air dry, shake them out, and you will have scent-free clothes to the best of your abilities without destroying your clothes. I would recommend that before throwing this. After going down this path, I would definitely recommend trying that before going back to the form of just straight ozoning your clothes for 5 days out in the woods, unless you're controlling it and doing short amounts and hoping that works. Because yeah, this is definitely not the same garment after the amount of ozone we shot at this thing. And so that is a much better solution. Use acid washes, Granger's, distilled white vinegar, all the same. Some form of wash treatment when you can, and then clean up with ozone if you feel absolutely compelled. If you do not want to use any type of acid washing, you just like live on ozone and think that's the best solution for you in your kit, then minimum doses. I would not recommend doing it, or use unscented Febreze and go that route and let those chemicals do its magic on the bacteria at that point. One thing I would definitely recommend, the DIY Sportsman Garrett has a great podcast on ozone. It dives into this, but it's more focused on the outdoor, using it in a tree stand to help you fight from deer. This is different. We're focused solely on the clothing side of the equation. But I would definitely recommend ultimately listening to that. It helps you. It's educational. I love Garrett. I love his channel. The guy's the man when it comes to all things hunting, and is like one skilled hunter. The downsides, like ozone, pros and cons of ozone. Pro, kills bacteria. But one thing that I've noticed with bacteria is like when you wear it, it gets into the fibers. Like you're in the fabrics, especially like base layers. The base layers are designed to wick, so they're literally pulling sweat off your skin into the fibers of the fabric. It's going to take a ridiculous amount of ozone, especially on our heavy base layers. It's going to take a ridiculous amount of ozone and time for the ozone to penetrate that fabric and to eliminate it. And so again, pros of, yeah, it's going to kill the surface bacteria, but the actual odors are in the fibers. And so like, you're never gonna kill the bacteria. So like, why risk damaging your clothes when like a lot of this stuff, like it's in the actual fibers and you're never gonna have enough, like you're just stalling the bacteria. Like, yeah, you're gonna pull it out, think that you smell great, or you don't smell great, but you're gonna smell like ozone. And that's a good solution and you're good to go. Definitely not the case. Science has proven, tons of people have discussed about this, but it's not going to kill the bacteria that's actually in the fibers because it takes so much time for that ozone to penetrate that. So don't recommend that. Wash cycle, let it sit in water, use the wash. That's what it's meant for. That's how the fibers are designed, to soak water, to wick water, and pull it in there. Like that is the best way to get those bacteria free and out of there, to get totally scent free. Like if you wanted to kill bacteria and you want to go scent free, you get in a shower and you use water and you scrub your body with disinfectant, scent-free soap, and you do as best you can. You don't jump in a quick ozone machine and douse yourself with ozone and think that this is going to make you scent-free.
I'm in my shower! Well, you know, I'm trying to get out of the shower sooner, and then I ask myself, why? I mean, this is where I want to be. When are you getting out? I'm not!
Doesn't get rid of the dirt, doesn't get rid of any of those compounds that are much more complex. Again, it's an oxidizing agent. I'm not a scientist. I don't know the pros and cons, but I do know what it does. Ozone, the molecule, O3 molecule, it's going to jump on a molecule that triggers some chemical reaction that triggers something in the olfactory system, that ozone, because that O3 is wanting to kick off oxygen. And when it kicks off oxygen, you're messing with the chemical compound of all these other things that cause scent odors in our mind that trigger these things. It's going to attach onto that and change it, and thus eliminating that trigger response in our olfactory system. That's what it's doing. For dirt, grime, like it's going to take a ton and tons of ozone to change the molecule of dirt or change the sweat molecules, like and penetrate fabrics. And so again, like for a straight surface treatment, it can be effective. If your odors are sticking to the exterior of your fabric, it will kill those bacteria, thus eliminating the odor that's being caused by that. But we've been washing, we've proven that scent-free soap works, all those items. But again, it doesn't eliminate all odors. Again, and then the ultimate thing about ozone, you have to put on your clothes. The half-life is like 60 minutes. You go drink coffee, you drink water, some people chew tobacco. Like, there's all these things that cause odors in the world around you. You hop in a 4x4. You have all these things going on. They're causing odors, causing you to sweat, causing pheromones. You got skin rafts. The whole skin raft thing just proves in and of itself you're shedding skin rafts nonstop, and deer can pick up those smells. So like all that causes odor that like ozone's not gonna help eliminate, but I've done it. I have some selling aspect. I will say that I've cut back drastically on ozone. because I am much more a believer. I think it's cheaper with distilled white vinegar and a couple other solutions that I use. But again, I have used Ozone, so I don't want to be a hypocrite and say don't use Ozone. I don't. From a gear perspective, it damages your gear, doesn't help it, doesn't make it better. I don't think it's as effective, but it's like one of those like, I want the bleeding edge. If it can help a deer get 5 feet closer to me, I'll do it. It's all about building up an edge here, 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 here. Saddle hunting, tree stands, like you want that edge as best as possible, and Ozone can help it if done correctly. So we learned a lot with Ozone. Wasn't the video that we wanted to make, but it's the video that was much more helpful. It's definitely dialed my system differently. How I think about Ozone, I think it has a place, but I don't think it's as effective at what I needed to do and what I thought it did. Definitely changed my perspective. So as a maker of clothes, selling of clothes, obsessor on clothes, probably not going to use Ozone as much as I have in the past, but it has a place for some people. And so for those folks out there, I'm talking to you, try to use different forms of wash, if possible, to minimize Ozone. And when you do need to use Ozone, when you feel absolutely every desire in your body is telling you, I need to Ozone that, so I need that smell. Just like I need that smell of coffee in the morning. If you need that Ozone smell to feel confident going out in the woods, limit it. Limit it, and don't throw totally bacteria-filled clothes in a bag and ozone the crap out of it. It will destroy your clothes over time. Not a good thing. So that was the biggest takeaway for us, is items that have tons of bacteria in them, tons and tons of bacteria. That oxidation process was so powerful, so evident in our clothes. So don't recommend that. Use washes where appropriate, better for your clothes, better for scent elimination. And then at the very last minute, if you feel absolutely compelled, use Ozone at that point, man. Again, love doing this video. I love making videos for you guys. It's super fun. And so, like always, man, like this video, subscribe. We're trying to push out as much content. We're working on a bunch of stuff, so it's really helpful. So please, man, please, guys, like and subscribe. It helps us out so much.